It's Red River Shootout, baby. SEC style.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this special edition of Locked On Crossover with Locked On Sooners and Locked On Longhorns as we talk the Red River Shootout. Shout out to all the everydayers. Today's video is presented by our partners over at FanDuel. You can start the season with big returns on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get it started. I'm Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners. He is Jonathan Davis from Locked On Longhorns. And we have got to talk about the Red River Rivalry, one of the oldest and the best in college football. I know y'all want to disrespect us coming into the SEC, but we didn't need that patch for this bad boy to be great. The Longhorns are coming in as a major favorite. And so, Jonathan, first and foremost, how do you feel about us in the SEC with this rivalry?
Yeah, man, I'm excited to, for the team to try to go out there and get the golden hat back. Y'all stole it last year, but
stolen.
You talk about stolen. Y'all earned it, I guess, right? I guess, but you look at it, Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. I think this is just where we belong. No disrespect to the Big 12. A lot of great matchups, and some of them I miss for sure. In the Big 12, but I just think the best football, is played in the SEC. They've said it for so long. It's just ingrained in your head. It just means more. And when you look at Texas and Oklahoma, obviously two blue bloods, two of the most historical programs in the sport, we deserve to play these big marquee games, right? We've already seen it with Oklahoma playing against Tennessee. Texas is going to be playing against Georgia, next Saturday after the Red River Rivalry. These are the games. These are the matchups. These are the slots that Texas and Oklahoma should be in. So you talked about it. We didn't need the SEC, marketing and the, SEC boost this weekend for, Texas, Oklahoma, and Red River, because it's always been a great game. But in terms of being in the SEC, when you talk about two of the most historical programs to ever play the sport, they just deserve to be in the best conference playing football. And right now, that's the SEC.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand in this conversation that, when you go down to Red River and just see the beauty of it, seeing that half and half, players run in, they hear either a cheer or a boo, and then it gets to the opposite side and it's all cheers or boos. And it's like the most fascinating experience, especially when you have like another 200,000 people outside of the stadium. But the beauty of being in the SEC too is we get to go to a whole bunch of big stadiums. Unfortunately for both of us, Oklahoma never plays in Austin and Texas never plays in Norman. So since it's always in the middle, we don't get the true feeling of major road games unless it's out of conference. Y'all went to Michigan this past season. We were at Ohio State not too long ago. We also played at Auburn, of course, a week before the bye week. So we got to start feeling that hate in the SEC. How do you feel about making your first big trip to looking at y'all's schedule, the only real one y'all go to is Texas A&M, and that's a rival.
Don't sleep on Vanderbilt. Hey, Vanderbilt just beat Alabama.
Touche.
You might have to go to Nashville, but you just talked about it, like those experiences, those environments. It's just so different than going to Ames, Iowa for Iowa State, or even Stillwater where, the games are great. Waco for Baylor, just things like that. Fort Worth for TCU. And I don't want to disrespect our old counterparts, but now you talk about Rocky Top, right? LSU, Death Valley, going to the Swamp, even though Florida's not great right now. Kyle Field, I mean, the building literally rocks. You know what I mean? When they get to jump in Tuscaloosa, just all of these, big stadiums, big atmospheres where they just do football a little bit bigger and a little bit better. And so, like I said, Texas and Oklahoma deserve to be in this spotlight for sure. We have for a long time. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to, actually go to these big, stadiums, these college towns where, they'll die about their football teams. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just got a little bit lighter in the Big 12, but it's big boy football in the SEC now. And it's even bigger because Texas and Oklahoma came, Realignment, 100%. I would say, like for a lot of teams, it affected them negatively, but Texas and Oklahoma really came out more positively, after realignment, right? Texas got Arkansas and, Texas A&M back in terms of rivalries. Y'all are playing Missouri again. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
So Texas and Oklahoma really benefited from realignment where a lot of schools kind of affected them negatively.
Yeah, and I don't expect nobody to be the next Nebraska, even though my rule is actually doing some special stuff up there. We'll argue that another day. But next season, y'all get to travel to Athens and play Georgia. You're going to Florida and playing in the Swamp. Like I said, you get to go to Lexington and deal with Kentucky and all that blue craziness. They seem to actually show up for defense whenever, they're at home. It's like the wildest phenomenon about them, except for when they play Ole Miss. They seem to always take them out. But when it comes to Red River, what is it about that you want SEC fans to understand as we prepare for this game? Don't worry, guys. We're going to talk ball in just a minute, but I want to know, what about this game do you want these fans to know if they decide that they want to partake in the festivities?
Just that it's the best rivalry in college football, right? I think, you brought it up earlier when we did Locked On College Football that I think this is the 44th time that both teams are coming in ranked more than any other rivalry game. And we just talk about the uniqueness, right? I mean, obviously, no disrespect to Army, Navy and, Auburn, Alabama and Ohio State, Michigan. There's been some great moments. But I think when you talk about being at the state fair, right, everybody already lit and turned up, in the biggest spectacle in the state of Texas. Then you talk about being in the Cotton Bowl, split at the 50s. You're running out the tunnel. You go from boos to hearing cheers, or you go from cheers to hearing boos, like depending on what side you're on. Half of the stadium is crimson, right? Half of the stadium is burnt orange. It's just an amazing atmosphere, and it's unlike any other rivalry game in college football. So, when you're talking SEC and you're talking about this rivalry brings something to the table that no other game or no two teams outside of Texas and Oklahoma in college football can bring. And to me, that's what makes it. Obviously, I'm biased, right? Obviously, I'm the host of Locked On. Obviously, I got this Texas hat on with this big ass logo on the front. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that the circumstances surrounding Red River, right? Always on the same weekend every year, second weekend in October. Just the spectacle that it is makes it like no other in college football, and to me, it's the best. But what are your thoughts on it? What would you like SEC fans to know about Red River if they haven't experienced it yet?
Yeah, and that's the one thing I can tell a lot of them is when you get there and you see the fair going on, that's when you start to see just how electric this experience is. You said it perfectly. When you get there and you go around, they getting turned up. Like everybody's losing their mind. You got all the crazy fair food that you gonna eat, something deep fried from a Snickers to a corn dog stuffed with cheese and stuffed with pork and stuffed with something. You're gonna get layers upon layers upon layers of fried food in your system. But then you go from there to another 90-some thousand folks in the stadium losing their minds to the beverages up in there. So the best part to me too is this game's at 2:30. Jonathan, I know that we've always appreciated that 11 o'clock game. A lot of people always say they don't want it to be at night because they don't feel comfortable with no night game. That much going on around there. I mean, it's the fair, it's food, it's beverage, there's a lot of stuff happening that you
get
don't
a little
want
crazy
at
in
the
Dallas
game.
at night for sure. It get a little crazy.
Wild in that area. It gets wild. But 2:30, when I saw that, I was like, okay, the SEC is taking this game seriously. Regardless of what rankings are any year between it's always some ridiculousness that happens. And having it at 2:30, putting it in that prime spot for an SEC game, I feel like they actually respected us. How you feel about that 2:30 kickoff?
Yeah, it was
Central
different.
Time, that is.
Yeah, it's different for
That's
sure.
the only
I
time.
think it's been like over 10 years since it's been in that 11 o'clock spot. It's been a long time since it's been anywhere other than 11. But like you said, it just feels like the prime time spot. Like obviously we don't have to tell college students and college football fans how to tailgate or how to turn up or anything, and they'll make sure they're right by 11. But 2:30 just feels right. You can wake up at a normal time, get yourself together, get out there, tailgate, and get ready for the game. And then, like you said, we're just so used to all these big SEC matchups being at 2:30. Like even when Texas played Michigan at 11, like I was ready, I was hyped, but it was still at 11 a.m. It just didn't feel right. It felt too early, right? It felt too early for my heart to be beating out my chest for a college football game. 2:30 is just that prime time slot. And like I said, we've seen so many legends play, at 2:30 in the SEC, and now Texas and Oklahoma take over that spot, at least for this weekend. So it just felt right. It felt proper for two programs like Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, they did us right there, and we're going to get right into the ball portion of it. Red River offenses versus defenses, one side versus the other versus the other. We're going to go dive into that next here on Locked On Crossover. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with big returns on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So whenever you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the live stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started right now. I mean, Oklahoma's playing Texas, Red River crossover. We're talking Red River. But if you want to put some money on your squad, they'll get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go over to FanDuel.com to get started on America's #1 sports book. All right, we got Jonathan Davis, we got Jay Smith, Locked On Horns, Locked On Sooners. We got to talk ball, man. Look, Texas comes in here, #1 ranked team in the country. And congratulations. I am proud of you all. You've ascended to that level, right? I like when I play up against our rivals and they're ranked that high so that we can knock them down. That's the whole goal. Our whole goal is to go and take each other out. But looking at things in a serious note, Steve Sarkisian is in the third year with his quarterback. He's got Quinn Ewers, just 3 years together, which is typically when his teams hit that completed spot. Brent Venables is now 3rd year in with his defense and his lead guy, Danny Stutzman. Last year was, of course, an electric and fun game. Of course, we took home that beautiful gold hat. How are you feeling about the Texas offense this season as we're heading into this marquee matchup?
I feel great, right? I think, when you look at it, that Texas offense has taken, that next step this year. I think the offense has always been formidable under Steve Sarkisian, but people have always asked, when will we see that 2020 Alabama type offense, right? And I think this is the closest we've been to it. The running game, maybe not as great as we used to seeing it at the University of Texas, but they found ways to supplement it. Arch Manning taking off for 67 yards, a couple, explosive runs from the wide receiver.
That's true.
And I think the passing offense, one of the biggest reasons that Quinn Ewers came back is because he said that 25 start mark for a quarterback is when you really start to figure things out. Michael Hawkins only in start 2, but you'll talk about that. So, Quinn Ewers with his experience, I think we're really starting to see him hit on all cylinders. And it really feels like we got 5 to 6 pass catchers that we can go to at any time to just make huge plays in this offense. So I think it's really hitting on all cylinders. Of course, the big question mark is, will Quinn Ewers, the way he looked the first 2.5 weeks, he hasn't played a football game since September 14th. Will he look the exact same way that he did against, Colorado State, Michigan, and then the first couple of quarters against UTSA? Or will there be some rust, right? He is coming, off of an oblique injury. But all in all, I think through the first 5 weeks of the season, whether it's been Quinn Ewers, whether it's been Arch Manning, I think the offense has hit on all cylinders for the Texas Longhorns. And it really starts up front with that offensive line. I think kind of the biggest difference in these two teams outside of the experience at quarterback is that Texas returned 4 of 5 starters, right, on that offensive line, where Oklahoma had to replace their top 6 guys on the offensive line. And I just spoke with Pro Football Focus a minute ago, and he talked about how Texas is the #1 graded pass blocking offensive line in the country. So that's going to help a lot in terms of, Steve Sarkisian's offense being one of the best in the country. And then the starter that we replaced, Cam Williams, right now, just talked to Pro Football Focus once again. He's projected as a first-round pick, right? So that offensive line is playing like the best unit in the country, and then everything, just comes off of that. So really, we've seen a high-quality offense from Texas thus far. I think maybe the one question mark about the offense is how well will we be able to run the ball, right? I think, for the most part, we haven't seen the Bijan, Roschon, Jonathan Brooks type performances. I think the running backs have just been good, right? Not great, not elite. I think they've been good. And in the last game, 2 weeks ago against Mississippi State, our running back Jaden Blue got benched because he had 2 fumbles on 6 carries, right? And so how much do you trust him in this game? Do you go to Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue, who aren't as effective, naturally aren't as explosive as Jaden Blue? And then if you aren't able to run the ball against this Brent Venables defense, so much of what Steve Sarkisian wants to do comes off the run, right? Then he attacks you with the play action. Then he attacks you with the RPOs. If the Oklahoma defense can just cancel out the run game and say you can't run the ball, then how effective is Quinn on that play action, on that RPO? How effective is Steve Sarkisian's offense without the threat of the run? That may be one question mark for me, but overall, I think this Texas offense still, even with Quinn coming back, is just too much for the Oklahoma defense to handle. And I think they'll be on the field a lot because the Oklahoma offense, which I want you to talk about right now, I expect a lot of 3 and outs from them. What do you think?
So On that note, for the defense side, I totally see exactly what you're saying and that's why Texas was rated so high coming in, right? You return majority of the offensive line and you got your quarterback. That honestly is the recipe for a successful offense, especially with Steve Sarkisian and what he likes to do. You got continuity from the line and the quarterback. And so, but for that defense, though, for us, we like to stop the run and we like to terrorize the pass. So what I think the thing for you all is, the question is, how much of the bending and breaking can we do to that offensive line with not only our defensive line, but our entire front seven? Because you know that Brent Venables and Zach Alley's basically a Venables clone as DC. They love the exotic blitzes and the confusion there to force that quarterback to have to look around to the third and fourth option. The secondary is going to have to make sure they don't allow explosive plays, which that's one of the things that we do. When you're very aggressive, you are susceptible to big plays. But if that D-line does get home and force them to scramble, that can help you. So that's where we're going to have to see the improvements in the defensive side. I think that's the key, and we'll talk about keys to victory in a moment. But on the offensive side, as you said, our offense going against your defense, this is basically a similar offense what you've seen throughout your entire journey this season. You haven't actually ran up against an actual elite offense yet. Congratulations, Texas. That has helped you all. But I think the one thing that's different with this offense compared to the others that you've seen is we're starting to see a week-over-week stack of actual good football from Michael Hawkins. He is a true freshman. He's going in a very hostile environment. And so the question is going to be about his composure. Is he going to be good with the check down? Is he going to be good with taking his time and launching it deep if the line gives him the blocking he needs? It's going to be all on his shoulders as far as his composure goes. The good thing for us is this is now the third week of continuity on our offensive line because we've been so injured. It sucks, man. Having 4 centers in 3 games is the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. And luckily, y'all ain't seen it. We are now getting over it because we now have our starting center and our backup center back, and we have continuity across the line. So the test for us and where I want to see is how we can hold up long enough so Michael can not only launch a pass, but he can also scramble. And I think that that's where the difference comes into what Michael Hawkins does compared to what y'all saw at Michigan with even Orji as well as Davis Warren. That they don't really scramble. Like Orji comes in to actually run the ball. Like he ain't there to break a run out. He's here to literally take the handoff and run it power somewhere. Y'all were prepared for that. You knew that they weren't going to be a threat in the pass game. I think Hawkins can change that narrative for himself by actually throwing the ball, getting rid of the ball quickly, and making it a game. So let me ask you this, though. On the defensive side, how do you feel about that defensive line? I know that bringing in Trey Moore was a big piece for you all to add to the pass rush. I love Colin Simmons, and I hope that he decides to sit out this game just to be respectful to me. I hope he appreciates me as a human being because I do like Colin Simmons a lot. He's one of my favorite. And I think that Anthony Hill has a lot of potential. I don't know if he's in the right spot yet, but I think that that's just youth, and he'll get and grow into what he wants to be. How do you feel about that pass rush going into this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be important, and I think it's really going to be about, gap discipline and just understanding who's your man and what's your responsibility. The good thing is, I would say that Michael Hawkins is not Jalen Milroe right now by any means, right? But I would say that that's probably a good ceiling in college football, right? You would hope that Michael Hawkins could turn into, a Jalen Milroe type player. Well, the majority of our defense, whether they were starters or not, got to look against Jalen Milroe last season when we beat Alabama, right? And so I think it's going to be the same thing, making sure that you don't allow him to get that big run, right? Or you don't fight too hard on his own read, or
yeah, that's true.
Discipline, keep contained, and make sure he doesn't take off for 40, 50 yards. And so, I think the pass rush is going to be key. Trey Moore has come over. He hasn't had a sack yet. He's been able to get pressure, but obviously, you want to get the quarterback on the ground and, push him back a little bit. So I think that's going to be interesting, a matchup that I think the Texas defensive line should win. But, we've talked about how it's Red River. Your offensive line may play the game of their life, right? And if they can't get a quarterback like Michael Hawkins on the ground, maybe he can do something special back there. So that's something, that's going to be key to watch. But I do like our defensive line in that matchup. And I think, Colin Simmons, I don't like using the word generational prospect because we've heard it so much. It's such a buzzword now. But I mean, the fact that he's just come in straight from high school and it looks like he's still playing at Duncanville. I mean, the game has just slowed down for him so much. I expect him to have a big imprint on this game. I expect Texas actually to blitz a little bit more than we're used to seeing, right? Put some pressure on the young quarterback. And then I think you're going to have to, in terms of the passing game, obviously limit the big plays because, if you want to force this Oklahoma offense to be, efficient and try to drive down the field 70 to 80 yards, which I don't think they can do consistently enough to beat Texas. But I just talked to Pro Football Focus, and he said that out of the 15 passes, I believe that Michael Hawkins threw last week, 8 of them are screens, right? So if you can, I think that's what you're going to see a lot of this week too, just because he's a young quarterback, right? And you're not going to trust him to just throw it all over the yard yet. So I think just sound tackling, gap discipline, keeping, Michael Hawkins in the pocket and forcing him to beat you with his arm, I think is going to be the key for the Texas defense. And I'm not sure how much we'll find out about the Texas defense this weekend, because I think kind of the question mark right now is, okay, they're top 3 in scoring defense. They're top 3 in yards allowed, but who have they played? Have they played an offense with a pulse yet? But then my argument is, does the Oklahoma offense have a pulse? Right. So
right. That's fair. That's very fair. That's very
I guess
fair.
We'll figure that out on Saturday. But, I do like the matchup in terms of the Texas defense versus the Oklahoma offense. I do think, like you said, just the atmosphere of the game and, with him being a dual threat quarterback, he could present some challenges that they haven't necessarily seen this year. But like I said, the experience coming off of what they faced, with Jalen Milroe last year, and just the fact that still at this point, right, his strength is not throwing the ball down the field and getting those chunk plays. I do think the Texas defense has the advantage against that Oklahoma offense.
Yeah, and that's a very fair point. So Texas has seen it with Milroe. Maybe Oklahoma could try to duplicate that with a little bit more passes down the field. I don't know. But we're going to talk keys to victory as well as a score prediction here on this Locked On crossover moment for the Red River Shootout. So Red River Shootout, first time showing up in the SEC, and Game Time is here to get you taken care of. They've got some great new features called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. So if you decide to be in the Dallas area and you want to check out this game and see that atmosphere, come on, SEC fans. You need to come see what it's like at Red River and the Cotton Bowl, and Game Time has got you covered. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats you don't have to waste time searching for throughout thousands of tickets. They've got you, and they've got all kinds of great deals, especially, like I said, for Red River. So if you want to find yourself a nice ticket, they'll even show you what it looks like. The seat view will tell you what that seat looks like from the stadium. So you'll know if you're on the Crimson Tide or if you're on the burnt orange side. You don't want to be in the wrong spot. But the good thing is, too, they'll also hook you up with the lowest prices guaranteed. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, as well as use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEG for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, we've got keys to victory for this game. Jonathan, this is what I think Oklahoma needs to do to win this game. Quinn Ewers is coming back from that oblique injury. I made the joke when we were on the squad show about, you need your stomach to breathe, to walk, to talk, to think. And y'all laughed at me. I mean, it was hyperbole, but at the same time, if you really think about it, if you're got your head on a swivel thinking a rush is coming, to me, the key for Oklahoma on defense is keeping Quinn moving. If he's moving, he's not hurting you as bad. Even if he's healing, that's to me one of the key things to defeat. If Oklahoma keeps Quinn moving in a way he don't want to move, how do you think he fares in this game?
Well, I keep leaning on this, but he has been one of the best quarterbacks under pressure this season.
He has.
But, a good point that, Max Chadwick just made, from Pro Football Focus is that can change from week to week, right? Pressure looks different. You could be great against pressure against Colorado State, right? But then Oklahoma's pressure could come at you in a different way, you know what I mean, and affect you differently. So, obviously all quarterbacks are better, when they're not under pressure. And I do think, 100%. Coming back, being a little rusty, not playing since September 14th, if Oklahoma can get to him. And then sometimes it's just, they get to you in the first quarter, they get that hit on you, and then you start to feel that for the rest of the game, right? And even when the pass rush isn't there, you feel like it's there. So definitely, you know what I mean? I don't think there is a ton of paths to victory for the Oklahoma Sooners, but one of them is certainly getting to Quinn Ewers often, and early and rattling him a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that for us, one of the keys that on outside of Quinn, we're definitely going on the defensive side. We're going to have to make sure you guys can't run. And as you mentioned, you had Jaden Blue had 2 fumbles against Mississippi State, and Oklahoma's been one of the more opportunistic teams in the country this year. We've got a turnover margin of 11 so far, with 8 of those being fumbles. We like trying to strip the ball, and then if we can get turnovers, I think that's probably the path to victory, is forcing all those turnovers. Like you said, if we can get the pressure, that's key. To me, for Texas, it's going to be all about your rush. How much pressure do you put on Michael Hawkins to make him make a lot of decisions? Is that a fair thing in your thoughts as far as what Texas needs to do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at it, as talented as he is, this is still his only, 3rd game of actual action and his 2nd start, right? And so, as a defense, you want to force a young quarterback into, patting the ball, making those mistakes, you know what I mean? And you can do that, kind of with, a pass rush and good coverage on the back end. So I think the key is getting to him, but also, like I said, being sound and keeping contained, right? Because sometimes the pass rush can be so good that he can step up through one of those gaps and take off for 30, 40 yards. So you want to make sure that you're getting pressure on him. You want to make sure that, you're making him make tough decisions, but you also don't want to give him easy outlets, to run the ball and get comfortable that way, right? We saw that last year with Dylan Gabriel, right? A quarterback that you wouldn't expect to come in and gash you with the run, I believe had over 140 rushing yards. So, he just played the game of his life. You know what I mean? So Michael Hawkins,
I was told that he wasn't good by so many people, man.
So Michael Hawkins is certainly capable, just with his speed and his athleticism, of running for 140 if you don't, keep him in the pocket and, have the discipline that you need. But ultimately, I think the best way to, shut down any quarterback is to get pressure on him. And I think we need to do a good job of that, and not just getting close to him, right? Not just getting around him, right? Not just getting your hands on him, actually get him on the ground, help stall these drives, and then get the offense back on the field. So, yeah, I think that's a huge key for Texas, is to get to Michael Hawkins early, rattle him and, remind him that it's pretty tough playing college football as a quarterback.
That's true. I mean, he did play ball in Texas, so I'm guessing he's kind of used to some of those kids in the Texas area trying to level him. All right, give me a player on offense and defense that you feel like is a key part of victory for Texas, and I'll do the same for Oklahoma.
I think it's Jaden Blue, right? I think it has to be Jaden Blue. Like I said, coming off the game where you get benched, I just think he brings something completely different to the offense than Trey Wisner and Jared Gibson. I think those are more, kind of just your power backs, just run through the hole and, get whatever the offensive line creates for him, where I think Jaden Blue is a creator for himself, right? Just out in the open field, catching the ball, making people miss in the hole. He's just so dynamic. And then you talk about speed, reaching speeds of 22 plus miles per hour. He can really take over the game and just hit his head on the goalpost anytime he gets a touch, right? So I think, Jaden Blue needs to get 20 plus touches in this game. And I think he needs to be effective with those 20 plus touches in this game. And then, on the defensive side of the ball, I think you talk about Anthony Hill, right? I would expect that, Anthony Hill a lot will be spying or have his eye on Michael Hawkins and his ability to run the ball. Obviously, I think Oklahoma is going to try to come in and run the ball a lot to take pressure off of Michael Hawkins. And so just, Anthony Hill in that second level, I think he's going to have a ton of responsibility. He's going to have to come out and play one of the best games of his life, right? To keep, Michael Hawkins contained, but also not let, Oklahoma just get away with running the ball 40, 50 times and then allowing Michael Hawkins to play, make plays off of that. So I think Jaden Blue is the key on offense for this run game to set up everything else, for Steve Sarkisian. And I think Anthony Hill on defense is a big key in terms of stopping the run game, whoever it's coming from Oklahoma, whether it's the quarterbacks or the running backs. But who are your two key players on offense and defense for the Sooners?
So for me, on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's going to be the tight end room and Bowers Sharp, right? Not only pass catching, but also blocking. It's going to be important to be able to give Hawkins time or give him an outlet, because I know that Texas rush is going to come after him. As you mentioned, there's a very good chance that they're going to blitz him a lot, because that's exactly what Tennessee did as soon as he got in the game. They blitzed him at like a 40% rate of like a 47% rate in comparison to Jackson Arnold at 36 or 35. So they turned up the intensity to try to stop Michael Hawkins. Luckily, he was able to, get a couple scores and get some movement going. But the goal was to rattle him as much as possible because he's a true freshman. That is the logical attack. And I think PK will probably try to do the same thing. That's where that tight end, Bowers Sharp, is really going to be critical in not only making those catches, but at least, tripping somebody so that he can get out there and get a catch. I think on defense, I traditionally would go, of course, with the linebacker room, but I think it's going to be R. Mason Thomas. He's come in this season with 5.5 sacks, and he's like a disruptive piece of player in the fourth quarter of just about every game. That's when he really shows out. I need that in the first half. I need some of those hits on Quinn just to, like you said, give him that feeling of, oh, yeah, this is college football, and these dudes are really going to try to hit me hard. And I want him to be thinking, and that's when I want that oblique to hurt while he's thinking. I don't want him to hurt while he's also doing it. I want it to be thinking, and he'd be like, it's in pain. That is going to be the goal. If they can keep the pressure on him because he's coming off injury, a mobile Quinn is not as effective as I think it will be a pocket passer. If this was him not being hurt coming to this game, I don't want Quinn to move. I want Quinn to be stuck in the pocket, and I want him to feel pressure coming in. But because he's coming off that oblique, I want him to move because I want him to feel uncomfortable. Then at the same time, that brings in Arch Manning. So then the question is, how many spies we gonna have out there to keep that dude from running? What he run like 28 miles per hour or something up the sideline? He's like the fastest Manning that ever exists.
But any quarterback that can run 67 yards for a touchdown, we call that a dual threat. So
exactly. The disrespect.
Whoever's playing that quarterback on Saturday for sure.
Exactly. So we'll be watching out for that. Make sure you go check out Jonathan over there on Locked On Horns. Go give him hell, Sooner fans, because I will.
Hold on. No. Before we get out of here, we need to know wax. So that the fans can hold you accountable.
All right.
Score and winner. Go ahead.
Score and winner. My score and winner.
I don't want you coming back and saying, well, Texas should have won. No. I predict it right now.
All right. You got it. I'm gonna give it to you. Give me Oklahoma 24-20. I'm gonna go with my Sooners. Who you got, Jonathan? Give me yours so we get it on wax.
Come on, man. Y'all see the hat, man. Y'all see the hat, man. Y'all know it. Y'all know what time it is, man. Texas 34-13. I just can't see this Oklahoma Sooners offense, putting up a great deal of points, man. You know what I'm saying? And I can't see this Texas offense getting shut down by that Oklahoma defense. Once again, it was 76th in the country in pass defense. We talking about them like they elite unit. I know the numbers may be skewed a little bit, but we talk about them like they an elite unit. Meanwhile, Texas top 3, and we not talking about their defense. But yeah, I got the Longhorns 34-13, but I'll take the Longhorns 34-33. You know what I'm saying? And
a win's a win.
What it is for me.
The gold hat is the gold hat, especially because we know all the craziness happens here. And so now we'll wrap it up. Jonathan Davis, thank you for pulling up from Locked On Horns. I'm Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners. Check us all out. And next watch, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He does some great stuff over there. And we were talking noise over there. So we'll talk to you all. Boomer Sooner.